G'day again. Well, yesterday I started my Confessions of an Adult Child Abuse Survivor, telling it in my words, my way. Of course it's debatable, of course it's arguable, but it's an argument no one will ever win if they want to go up against me about my recovery and my journey. Started yesterday speaking about from whence it sort of began for me, and I think anyone that's read my books or rants or has followed some of the things I've been involved with knows that I speak openly and I speak loudly. But now I think it's time for me to speak personally so that people understand that not that I've worked out everybody's answers or to solve the riddles of everybody's survival, because I wouldn't insult you by saying that. And Lord knows we who have been survivors tend to get a little more insulted than others. And sometimes that never ends. People justify their opinions of us or our journey or our plights with, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Now, I realised a really long time ago, don't offer your opinion if it's not required. Don't give it if you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you're going off an assumption that you know best, you're going to look like a prize fool every time. Because when we assume we know, what we really know is absolutely nothing. I say bah humbug to people and say, "Oh, I know what's gone on with you." Please, really, I don't recall seeing you there along the way. But what I want to talk about in this clip is addictions and deception. I mentioned in my first clip that I found out by way of having my little body rebuilt that doctors had a miracle answer for many things that ailed us. And when you're a young kid, anything that stops the pain will be fine. Thank you very much. And then when we become adults, or we go through our teenage years and we get out into the world and we see things aren't always as clearly on the outside, and they can be as confused as they are on the inside of the place we once call home. But the pathways outside the home can, and more often than not, do lead to more pain and more heartache and more discoveries of just how benign or unimportant we, the victim at that point, really feel. You see, when abuse starts at a very young age, in essence, when I say they corrupt our beginnings, because they tell us to tell lies, to cover up. They ask us to wear masks so no one will see the deception. They want us to play nice and be good. And they have all manner of reasons why you should adhere to this. I remember thinking I was being a really good girl and doing it all the way right, until my teacher in the 6th grade wrote home and asked my parents to please explain why my attitude and my demeanour, not to mention my grades, had dropped. I learnt back then that I wasn't doing the right thing, I wasn't pretending well enough, or I wasn't being deceptive well enough. So of course I would endure the wrath for my letting someone into what could have been an explosive secret back then. So I learnt well. I'm a very fast learner, and I learnt that I could always smile and I could always be polite, or I could always growl and be extraordinarily rude. But as I got older, I realised the lessons of my youth, although they taught me all what I didn't really need to know in life, or not that early in life, they taught me that you had to play the game. My addiction became relevant when I couldn't play the game, I couldn't hide from the game, and I couldn't hide from me. And I could always justify my dependence on prescription medication because the doctor gave it to me. Now, the right part of my brain that knows sense and sensibility would question. The left part of my brain would say, "What would you know? Shut the voices down, make the voices be quiet." Now, when I was younger, I used to think, "Oh, thank God, the doctor's just not going to argue." As I got older and I started to look back over my shoulder, and because someone once asked me, "How do they keep giving this to you?" It's funny, I'd never asked myself that question. I was a chameleon and I could convince whatever. I needed this to stop the pain. And then one day, it was when my epiphany began and my journey to healing started. I was on my way to get something to stop the pain, to stop the voices. And when I didn't arrive at the place I was meant to be, I figured there had to be a really large lesson here. I could choose to remain on the path that took me to the doctors that would only too happily hand over a prescription, or I could stop running and I could face the fact that now, on top of everything else, I had a problem with prescription medication. I thought this would be really easy, I'll just stop. And you know what? I did just stop. And I've paid the price ever since. So anybody that's found themselves depending on or addicted to anything, be that drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, crime, whatever your addiction or your dependence might be, don't just think, I've had an epiphany, I'm going to stop, and you could end up like me, suffering with health issues from there on in. But again, that was my lot, so I picked myself up and dusted myself off. And that was a very, very long time ago. But that dependence gave me a hidden place where no one could get through unless I invited them. That dependence made me 10 foot tall and bulletproof. That dependence gave me power and strength. The only thing I didn't realise back then, all of those things were just in my mind. Because to the outsiders looking in, I was just a crumpled person who didn't know up from down. I was just a person who you'd step over rather than offer a hand up. That reality is a very hard one to face. But you know what? I faced it, and I remember looking back now, all these years later, I felt sad and I felt hurt. And that's when I realised no one has a right to make you feel that way. No one. Not anybody. You know, I could go through a list of people who don't, but nobody does. So if you're sitting at home and you have a problem with anything that keeps the real you hidden from not only you, but from the people who love you, people who care about you, I found a way. My way wasn't actually the right way. I since have found that for any addiction, for anything that we put into our bodies continually, you can't just say to your body, well, okay, you're done now. You need to go and see a decent, caring, educated practitioner who can guide you back. Now, we don't have the luxury in this country of having rehabilitation places where survivors of abuse can go to not only find solace, but to heal from their addictions, their pain, and their pasts. There is a way. I've just got to keep trying to convince the governments that maybe I know a little better than they do. But if you have been a victim of child abuse and you've gone down so many pathways that you don't know how to find your way back, that was me. I was lost. I felt like my life was living in a maze, and the prescription medication didn't really help that. So be brave and courageous and realise all our addictions give us is an excuse. And what I've found along my journey mentoring people here and internationally, the thing that most of us fear is giving up the right to use an excuse. And trust me, I've used it plenty of times. But you learn your excuses from your abusers. They teach you how to manipulate. They teach you how to deceive. They teach you how to lie. They teach you how to hide. And those same people have the then gall, when you master their art form of lies and deception and hiding, and they ask, how did she get there? Well, I've got a tip. When you're born, you know nothing, you're a blank canvas. And as we grow, we learn to see and to hear and to look and to touch. And if those things are broken, if those things aren't delivered in the manner in which loving parents should, then what hope does this child have? This was that child once, and I had no hope. None whatsoever. Today, what a journey. but I live with hope still today. I live with a painful peace, but I'm okay with that as well. Because if I look back today, I know the difference that me believing I mattered, that me believing I didn't need anything to make me know or to feel or to believe in who I'd become. So that's about it for today. I don't want to bombard. I just want you to know that there is hope. So until next time, be good to yourself and each other, and remember, always keep your children safe. Take care. Be well.